This is the moment we've all been waiting for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to
Welcome to In or Out, a rapid-fire game where we discuss a handful of topics and determine where we stand. I'm Tony Pesta, joined by Jackson Flickinger, and today we are looking at a few potential trends from Game 1 and deciding if we think any of them will hold true throughout the remainder of the series. So, for example, if I said in or out on Sam Merrill finishing with 0 made three-pointers, Jackson would say,
out.
obviously, he's out on that. I think we all are. Hopefully, Sam gets back on the floor. That's what I really want to see. But we're going to start off with the defensive.
Karis LeVert's going to make sure that happens. So,
make sure.
Don't need to be too concerned.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough to say. But we will start with the defensive side of the ball, actually. And specifically, I want to talk about, do we believe Evan Mobley can continue to find success against Paolo Banchero? The Cavs held Banchero to just 9 of 27 shooting to go with 9 turnovers, and Mobley played a huge role in that, although it was a full team effort from the Cavs. Jackson, are you in or out on Mobley holding his own against Banchero for the rest of the series?
I'm in on him holding his own. I'm not. I'm out on Banchero being as limited as he was. I think that Banchero is going to have better games. I was going back and looking at some of his turnovers, and there were some bad turnovers that I don't think were necessarily forced by good Cavalier defense. Not to say that there wasn't good Cavs defense, especially. I know like the matchup data says that Banchero went off on Niang, but one of the things that they did a good job when Niang was on him is they did a good job of like taking away the passing lanes really well.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the turnovers from there I think were done by like good Cavalier defense, and some of the other ones were pretty careless. Banchero talked about after the game about how there's such more of a focus in postseason games, and that's something that I think he kind of learned from this experience, and you kind of saw that with some of those turnovers where I'd say they were regular season Darius Garland like turnovers, a couple of them. So
that bad, man.
There were like the first play of the first plays of the game, he just kind of like dribbled it off his foot or something like that, and there wasn't a whole lot of pressure. So it's
classic Darius Garland right there.
Yeah, exactly. So in like a couple times, I think he tried to do like the little lob over the top, and it's like that. That's not gonna fly when you have a locked in 5-man playoff defense. You're like, yeah, that's gonna work against the Kings on a Tuesday, but not in this situation. So Evan Mobley did a great job. I don't want to discount that. Evan Mobley was phenomenal, and stopping Banchero is the most important thing, because you look at like Jalen Suggs and Gary Harris went 4 for 22 from the field, which is awful. But you're like, yeah, I mean, Jalen Suggs and Gary Harris aren't exactly, great offensive players.
They shot tomorrow's date. They're just getting ahead of schedule.
They really did. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to keep doing that, but you're not super surprised by that. But if the Magic's offense is going to be playing up to their capabilities again, I think it's going to be Paolo. So it's really important for Evan Mobley and the Cavs to really keep locking in on that matchup.
For sure. I think a comfortable game plan is kind of just doing everything you can to shrink the floor on Banchero. Obviously, you have an Evan Mobley who you can trust in isolation, and I think he did a fantastic job, not only on Banchero, but in that second half, just taking away everything he could. Like, it was one of those games where Mobley's on the floor, and you could just feel the Magic trying to get away from him, and he's just everywhere. I mean, he was impacting so much of that game on the defensive end. But if you're able to just shrink the floor around Banchero, I think a lot of those turnovers came from not really being prepared. Like you said, I think there was a degree of focus that he just wasn't ready for because he was getting so much of the attention defensively and everyone else around him wasn't able to make the Cavs pay for that. I think if you're looking at an ideal series for the Cavs, it's that trend holding true where, hey, we're just overloading on Paolo and nobody else is punishing us for it. That would be really good. We're going to talk about the rebounding here later, but I think one of the huge things is that they were able to shrink the floor and spend a lot of attention on Banchero without being out of position on the glass, which we'll talk about the Knicks series for the rest of our lives. They did not do that with Jalen Brunson. And even if you're using the Knicks series as an example, Mobley played great defense against Julius Randle. I know Randle isn't exactly the best playoff performer. I won't compare them 1-to-1. I won't compare them 1-to-1, but I think he's relatively similar, at least in build, to Banchero. So it's kind of like a similar matchup in that regard for Mobley. So basically what I'm saying is this is nothing new. I saw a lot of people today, for some reason, questioning if Mobley can hold up against Banchero for a full series. And now listen, I think Banchero will get his own at some point. He's a great player, and more often than not, really good offense beats good defense. But I just think it's silly that we're questioning if Mobley can hold his own. Banchero is a tough shot maker, and Mobley just has to keep making it tough on him. And I feel confident that even if we have a game or maybe the rest of the series where Banchero is going off and getting his own numbers, I feel confident saying Mobley is going to make it difficult for him.
I just want to say that it's incredibly rude of you to compare Julius Randle and Paolo Banchero.
I was mainly comparing their physical build. Just their physical builds.
Yeah, I mean, Paolo's not somebody who's gonna like overpower Evan Mobley. I don't think anybody's gonna say that.
I think people are saying that.
Yeah, but they're wrong.
Yeah, I think Mobley's still relatively thin, compared to some of the bigger players in the NBA. I think he's a lot stronger than he gets credit for. People are still comparing this to like rookie season Evan Mobley. He was holding his own against Banchero, and Banchero is no lightweight.
Yeah, I mean, Mobley's pretty good against other power forwards as long as you're not talking about. I think those guys with like old man strength, I would call like
Al Horford.
Yeah, like that's a little tougher, but that's more of a center thing. Yeah. So that's not a problem. Like that's not a concern for me. It's more so that good offense does beat good defense, and sometimes one of the things with Banchero is he does kind of like to take those mid-range shots, and when Banchero's at his best, he's really distributing and setting up his teammates. So it kind of comes down to like how everyone else is performing around you, and that's what made those Niang minutes so interesting, is that everybody else around him was performing really well. So that's where it's like it is a one-on-one thing, but it's more of a team thing, and I think the Cavs did a really good job.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. The trend to watch there is how the Cavs as a team continue to defend Banchero, I think, because I trust Mobley individually. It's going to come down to the other guys on both teams, really. Keeping on the defensive side of the ball, and something that is likely going to be another key for the Cavs all series long, can they continue to win the rebounding battle? The Magic have been a strong rebounding team throughout the season, but Cleveland had a 14-board advantage in Game 1. Jackson, are you in or out on this trend holding steady?
Can I push? Can I just say something in the middle? Like, I have.
If you want to be a coward, you can do it.
Fine. I just think there's reasons to be optimistic. I think Jarrett Allen was really good. I think the minutes with Jarrett Allen was great. The Cavs got 79% of defensive rebounds when Jarrett Allen was on the floor, which, like, for people who don't sit there and look at defensive rebounding stats all day like I do, those are great numbers. Like, usually about 75% is what is like an aspirational goal. JB talks about he wants his team to get 75% of defensive boards. So they got around 80. That's great. But when Jarrett Allen was on the bench, that fell to 66%, which is bad. It's not as bad as against the Knicks. Against the Knicks, the Cavs with Allen on the floor were getting like 59% of rebounds, which that's tough. But so it's not awful, but it's definitely not good in the minutes that Allen's at. So I think it's something where just because you did it in Game 1, you're going to have to. This is an area that the Cavs have struggled, especially when Allen's not on the floor. So you're going to have to show it to me in Game 2, show it to me in Game 3 before I'm really like, okay, this is something that we can count on.
Yeah, that's fair. I think when I was doing my rewatch of a lot of these possessions, something that I noticed, the Magic didn't really crash the offensive glass as much as you might have expected. A lot of Allen, he had 18 rebounds. A lot of them were completely uncontested. which, hey, I'll take it if that's how the Magic want to play. I think the game plan there is probably the thought process is, well, we're going to make sure that we're back on defense, limit the Cavs in transition. We set up our half-court offense. We feel good about it. But I'd expect that to be an adjustment that gets made, especially someone like Jalen Suggs crashing in from the perimeter. Josh Hart reference, a little PTSD for everybody. You would expect the Magic to be a little more active just because that does seem like the obvious blueprint to go against this Cavs team. And again, rewatching it, they didn't feel like they attacked as often as you would have thought. To the Cavs' credit, or do you have something to say?
I kind of think the Magic didn't do a great job of preparing for game one.
I
Just
agree.
in some of the ways that they kind of, we talked about this some yesterday about how they let Mitchell just kind of, we're not going to put our best defender on Mitchell. We're just going to make sure nobody else does anything. And it's like, yeah, well, in a series where you're going to struggle to score 90 points, you can't just let Mitchell have a free 30, And I think they did a bad job with that. They didn't do any blitzing. Pre-game, when we talked to Mosley, the Magic coach, beforehand, somebody asked him, like, what do you need to take away from the Cavs? And he was like, the 3-point shooting. And I was like, bro, you do not need to take away the 3-point shooting. You need to take the ball out of the guard's hands. Like, make Max Strus make a bunch of threes. Make Allen do something with the ball on the perimeter. Make Mobley do something with the ball on the perimeter. Like, that's where I think, and the kind of like along the same lines, like, attack the glass. I know that the numbers say the Cavs do a good job of pushing off of rebounds, and they do, but I don't think they're going to kill you if you're attacking the glass really hard. Because when you attack the glass as hard as the Knicks were, like, when the Cavs got a rebound, it was like, let's take 5 seconds to, like, breathe, and then let's try to get into the offensive set. Not like, oh, we got the rebound after, Hartenstein was throwing us around for 2 minutes. Let's just run up the court now. Like, that's just
yes,
not
like
how
you
that
get
works.
the rebound against the Knicks, and you have to spend 3 seconds finding Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson to make sure they're not coming behind you to poke it free.
Right.
The Magic just didn't. Yeah, I think if they would have just listened to the Junkyard Pod, they would have known all of the Cavs' flaws to target. But no,
Yeah,
it was
sure.
interesting. It felt like they didn't target the things that we were expecting them to. So I'm wondering what sort of adjustments we see. To give the Cavs credit here before we get into our final topic, whenever the Magic did attempt to crash the glass, the Cavs rebounded as a unit. They did a really good job all around getting bodies on people. Max Strus had 9 rebounds. You compare that to the Knicks series, our beloved Jetty Osman had just 15 total rebounds in that
How
series.
many did Isaac Okoro have?
I believe he had 7 in like 75 total minutes of playing time. And so Max Strus already out-rebounded him, and I don't know how many minutes he played yesterday, but probably half of that, less than half of that. Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah, if that holds true, if Strus continues to get on the glass, if Mitchell and Garland continue to fight in there, feel better about it. Heading into our final topic here, and again, something that is a giant key to victory for the Cavs. Jackson, can the Cavs continue to generate quality offense against a sturdy Orlando defense?
I think they can if they're going to keep switching like this. I think it just doesn't. This isn't a team to really switch against, and I don't like. I understand the rationale behind it is we don't want a Sam Merrill, Max Strus guy to get loose and get all these open looks, so we're going to switch. But when you have Cole Anthony trying to guard Evan Mobley in the post, it's like that's not what you want. There's several possessions where Franz is out trying to stay in front of Mitchell. It's like this is not what you want. You don't want. This is a team to drop or even blitz. Like, there's no need to try to, someone set his screen on Gary Harris. Well, Gary Harris, he needs to definitely go run with Max Strus. It's just like, I wouldn't do that, but if the Magic continued to do that, and we'll have our answer this time tomorrow. If the Magic continued to do that, I think the Cavs can keep generating good looks. I think Mitchell can be the aggressive player. He can play his game, and if he can play his game, the Cavs are going to generate decent looks. They may not be, they may not have a good night every night. They didn't have a good night on Saturday because they missed they went on a huge stretch of missing every 3, but they generated good looks. So if you do that, I think the Cavs can keep doing that. If they were to switch up how they played defense, which I I would hope they did if I was a Magic fan. So the one Magic fan who's in the comments for the last episode,
Yeah.
hopefully you guys do
Shout
that for
out
your
to you.
sake. But that's so it's kind of like yes, but maybe not.
That's fair. Yeah, I think the Cavs really, for me, it felt like they looked comfortable on offense. Their process looked good. Thought they moved the ball really well. 21 assists on 36 field goals. That was the
Mhm.
second best assist percentage of any of the teams to play yesterday. And aside from a few stretches here and there, which you're going to have throughout 48 minutes, they didn't feel too stagnant. I felt like they continued to switch up the type of plays they were running, the actions they were running. There was a heavy flow of just constant ball movement, constantly moving into the next action. It was a layered offense, and that's what you need to see because when they start to spam that high pick and roll, one guy's taken over, whether it's Garland, Mitchell, whoever. Like we saw all those games in the regular season where Garland was just like, I got it. Mitchell's calling for the ball, and Garland's like, Allen, come here. Let's run our 16th pick and roll of the quarter. We didn't see that against the Magic.
Right.
And so that's good. I think, yeah, I expect the adjustment from the Magic at some point. If it's not in game two, I would assume it's got to come at some point. But for the Cavs, you need to keep getting 3-point shots up. I think you can't be hesitant there, even though you didn't shoot the ball very well last game. You got to limit turnovers. That's something that could have hurt them a lot more than it did in this game.
And what was Max's 5 turnovers were
Yeah,
terrible turnovers.
they were bad.
Like, yeah, they were. It can't get much worse than those ones.
Yeah, I would expect Max Strus to take better care of the ball. Hopefully he gets it going because if they do make those adjustments and they start to try and get the ball out of Mitchell's hands, that means you need DG to have a big scoring game at some point.
Mhm.
You need Allen and Mobley to stay aggressive, and you need the bench and Strus to have a good shooting game. You need some of those guys to start uncorking from three, or else you're going to fall into that stagnant offense that we're all dreading.
Well, I'm like, if I was the Magic, I would just say, hey, I understand keeping Suggs on Darius, but hey, we're gonna trap every Mitchell screen. So then
Yeah.
we're gonna make Garland get past Suggs, which he had a really hard time doing. Suggs is picking him up like 15 feet in the backcourt, making him really earn it. And I think Darius, I don't think he played bad, but the numbers, 14 points, five turnovers isn't something that I think Cavs fans would sign up for. So, you know, but if you could do that and then get the ball out of Mitchell's hands too, it's like, well, what's the offense going to look like then? Like, it's not going to look good. So I think I want to see, what does this look like in game 2? What does this look like in game 3 before you kind of make any grand proclamations? Because we just know that these things can turn really
Very
quickly. Just
quickly.
like one adjustment here, one adjustment there, and everything's different. So, if they did do that, then it becomes a better Sam Merrill series. It becomes a more important Max Strus series. Becomes a more important George Niang series. But as of right now, I never felt. I don't want to say I never, because I feel like at the beginning of the third quarter, I felt like you had to get Mobley off the court. But there wasn't a lot of times where you felt like, man, this is really cramped with Mobley out there, and that's what you would expect to feel from a team that has as much length and size as the Magic do.
Yeah, that the Cavs starting five did really good in their minutes together. I think they had a plus 15 net rating. If that can hold steady, you're feeling good about this series. If they continue to let Donovan Mitchell kind of dictate his own flow, you're also going to feel pretty good about the series. Whether they win it or lose it, if you go down with Donovan Mitchell as your best player, feels a lot better than what happened in the Knicks series where he just couldn't get himself going because they wouldn't allow him to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and that's why would you allow Donovan Mitchell to have the ball if you can do things to make it so he can't. So
Yeah.
I truly don't know, but hopefully it continues.
Yeah, listen, this series is far from over, but it's hard not to feel encouraged with how the Cavs played in game 1. The only thing left to do is see if they can replicate any of that success in game 2 and head to Orlando with a confident lead. They would have a chance to win their first playoff series without LeBron James since 1993.
That was 31 years ago, so we'll see.
It's time, man. They need to do it. They need revenge for 2009. But again, it all starts. Well, it already started in game 1, but it starts with replicating that success from game 1 in game 2. With all that being said, thanks everyone for watching and listening to another episode of In or Out. We will continue to recap these games as we move through the first round, and go Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs. Brian, what were you doing in 1993?